Hello and welcome back to the CFC Talk podcast. I know I'm smiling right now, but inside out, oh, this is it is hurting me a lot because probably the performance so far, I mean, yes, second game in of the season, but the performance and probably will be one of the best performances we've given this season. And we will give this season, but we've got joining tonight with us Travis to discuss it. And before I give you an introduction on Travis, I just want to apologize for not uploading an episode last week. Really sick, couldn't do one on Everton, but we'll talk a little bit about Everton obviously in today's podcast with the Tottenham result that we've gotten, and then hopefully Leeds as well. But host of Balanced Blue, podcast contributor at Chelsea Respect, Pride of London, and the Chelsea Social. Travis, welcome to the podcast. Been a long time planning this, and I guess no, I would have if it would have been a win, I would have said not a better occasion to have planned this. But Anthony Taylor's taken away the headlines for tomorrow. How are you doing and how are you feeling after that match and what a thriller for game?
Yeah, first, thanks for having me on again. It's always good to get back. It's been a little bit. So welcome, thanks a lot for having me and welcome me back on. But yeah, today I'm not gonna lie, very, very angry, frustrated, and I don't really feel that way even when we don't get results our way. Like if we go to the Etihad and lose like 2-0 or something like that, I can live with that when teams just outplay us. But today doesn't feel that way at all. It really does feel we were robbed. I mean, it was clear and obvious refereeing errors that somehow were not overturned, but even with VAR reviews. So it's really difficult to take this one because, I mean, let's be honest, it's one of the better performances we've seen in a long time, especially offensively with Thomas Tuchel, even dating back to last season. So we had a lot go right. It's just things that are a little bit out of our control that didn't go our way, and we weren't able to do enough in those situations despite things not going our way. And the refs, yeah, just I think we'll be talking about that enough. But today was a really difficult one, just very, very, very difficult to take that we didn't get all 3 points from this one.
And it's one of those performances where you can't take away anything from the players with everything they've done and we've put in on the pitch today. Everything was perfect. And the two goals, yes, maybe the first one, that Havertz foul, and then the error from Jorginho that led to that goal. Maybe you can kind of blame it on the players or on us for conceding that one. But the second one is really very surprising to see and where it's come from. But right from the start of the game, very confident looking Chelsea side that walked onto that pitch, and we were dominating completely, at least in the first half, because it looked like the game was over before even it started with the way that we were attacking and the way that we were playing, as you mentioned. Quick thoughts on the first half.
Yeah, first half, I mean, I thought we looked really lively, especially even start off with, we had the big chance created by Sterling that went to Havertz. Unfortunately, it was a pretty good save by Lloris to kick it wide. I still feel that we could have done more on that. That was a huge chance. And what I felt like so much about that chance is Sterling pretty much just stopped the ball and let it sit there for Havertz, just squared it up entirely. Not even where it had any movement or anything that could have potentially thrown it off or putting type of spin that, maybe he wasn't even trying to apply to when takes a finish on it. So that one stuck out to me as a huge moment early on. I thought we looked very lively in terms of we also had a chance where Jorginho from pretty deep out, threw a ball up over the top that broke their defensive line and Loftus-Cheek kind of missed the header at the near post. And that was another, one that I thought we haven't seen a lot of that, Jorginho putting that display on that he can do those things from deep as far as creating chances. If we could see more of that type of play from him going forward throughout the season, I mean, that's going to be massive because that's been a big critique of him is that at Chelsea, despite doing it at Napoli, he hasn't really created chances from deep. So I think seeing that, and we saw a little bit more of it. I'm pretty sure it was against Everton too. He had a chance that was created by playing the ball over the top. So, or no, it was and he also had the one in preseason where he kind of had the link up to Sterling that was a good assist. So we're seeing a little bit more of that. And I think that was a very encouraging thing that if we're going to kind of have this shape that's this more of a 4-2-2-2 in attack. And it looks like it's going to maybe get more of the creativity out of Jorginho from deep as well, because there's just going to be more people to pick out potentially racing through, maybe playing on the last shoulder of the defender. So those moments stuck out to me up until the goal by Koulibaly. But man, what a performance by Koulibaly in the first half! just absolutely think he was completely on it today. Really looks to be a signing that's filling in as very much a Rudiger replacement. We even saw him getting forward, and despite even scoring the goal from the corner, he did have a missed shot that was from open play. Is kind of reminded me of Rudiger as well. So I think he really looked encouraging today. And overall, then you also have Tuchel's third signing, Mark Cucurella, who just was phenomenal, I think, throughout the match, but especially in the first half, was really getting forward and helping us create plenty of different chances and offensive movements. And I mean, overall, I thought we played a great first half, and then we just get basically hit. Eventually we concede. And continue on in this fight in the second half. But the first half overall was great. I thought that we played everything that we wanted to see pretty much happened in that first half, despite the second goal to kill them off, which kind of left them have that later on and get the equalizer. But I think we should have. That was my only critique for the first half, is that we had so many chances and dominated the match so well in the first half that we really needed that second goal to kill it off, and we see why now.
Yeah, I think that is probably the only thing that we lacked in that first half is the ability to maybe score a few more goals since we were playing so well. And in that formation that we played with, Jorginho, as you mentioned, played incredibly well. Yes, he had that error leading up to that goal, but except that overall, and Twitter, the fan base being reactionary, saying, "Oh, too many of the errors from Jorginho." I think it's completely wrong. I think Jorginho played an incredible performance today. Picked out his passes, picked out his moments, and he made sure that at the same time he was back enough to defend against any counter attacks Tottenham could have. A few tackles and his passing percentage was also very pretty good and accurate. So there's nothing much wrong from Jorginho. Simply, yes, obviously that goal takes away a lot from it, and you could say these that goal cost us the game, or that goal gave Tottenham the lifeline. But at the same time, N'Golo Conte, nice to see him there, and the change that he brings to this team and the fitness that he has is incredible. And I'm hoping that injury the reason he got subbed off isn't too much. I like Travis's just facial reactions while I'm giving my comments. Oh my. But no, I think a very nice first half from us. And as Travis mentioned, we should have scored a few more goals on there, and then we should have gotten closer. But what a goal by Koulibaly from that corner!
Yeah,
He wasn't expecting it, to be honest, and he was totally free right on the edge of the box, and he got it right top corner if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, no,
And
he
yeah,
finished it expertly. I mean, he got it connected with it just right into that right side of the goal. Overall, well taken, and he looked great today. I mean, I think one thing that stuck out too in that first half was I thought three of the better players, arguably that Koulibaly and Cucurella were the two best ones out of those better players that we had on the first pit on the in the first half of the pitch. But I think that what I've noticed out of those three with Sterling, Cucurella, and Koulibaly, those are functionally Tuchel's only signings in this squad, and they all looked great today. So I think that we're already seeing kind of the impacts of Tuchel taking over and getting some of the players that he actually wants for this team. So I think that's something to monitor going forward as far as how we back Tuchel and what we're going to be looking for. Because if we continue to hit on the success that we seem to have already hit with these players, then I think we give him a few more, and this could be a very different conversation as far as the attack and where the direction of the season was ending or is going to end, because I think that kind of had coming into this year, nobody's really feeling that we're going to be a title contender. And I'm one of those people as well. But I think given a few more signings, we could at least maybe see if we're ready to start closing that gap enough. But that was just one thing that stuck out to me, is it seems that Tuchel, despite and I've even been critical too that maybe we shouldn't have him on transfers because it's just a lot of responsibility for one person. He seems to be getting it right so far. So maybe we continue to back him further in the market before it closes here at the end of the month.
no, I think I completely agree with you on that, and we have to realize that whoever we've signed, in the past few years has not been signed by Tuchel specifically. So he's having to use players signed by other managers for their own tactics and their own kind of ways of playing football. Compared to whereas Tuchel,
Mm-hmm.
had that signing with Saul and Lukaku, which both didn't end up well. But now we're seeing it with Sterling, with Cucurella, as well as Koulibaly, how incredible these three signings have been, and the way they've played against even Everton and against Tottenham, both all three have been standout performances. Sterling did have that miss. I can't remember. I think it was something around the 60th minute when he missed, and
Yep.
then on the other end, Harry Kane almost scored, and I said, "Ah, this is the last thing I want us to see." And there was a Kai Havertz miss as well in the second half, which, going back now, if we had scored, we would have won the game, and probably sealed the game before even that second goal went in for Tottenham. But all in all, very positive to performance in Tuchel. Oof.
Yeah.
He's ready for it. He's ready to pick a fight. And as much as Conte might be the one who instigated it in the first time, Tuchel wasn't going
Mm.
to back down easily, and he wanted to show what him and Chelsea are made of, which is great to see from a manager. Yes, he got sent off, but I mean, let's be honest, it was needed. We couldn't have let Conte and his backroom staff behave the way that they did against us.
Yeah, I think that was. I mean, I was with one of my friends as a Spurs fan. Was texting. I was like, "This might be the most entertaining thing that we see all season at this point. Like, if this actually erupts into something more, this could be a lot of entertainment for the season." But yeah, that was a very out of character for Thomas Tuchel. Maybe it was almost like the animations of Antonio Conte kind of rubbed off on him, and almost by extension made him get into that kind of mindset as well. But I've always liked Antonio Conte. I can't really root for him now that he's at Spurs. But yeah, today was a little. I think that the goal they scored in that first one was a little incendiary from their bench and their managers and kind of backroom staff. I think that was a little too much. I mean, Tuchel, I don't know if he was taking exception to them as much as he was taking exception to the refs not calling the foul that led to Havertz being dispossessed and then initiated their entire attack. I think that was more the argument he had, and even some of Conte's post match comments kind of agreed with that because he was saying that the issue he had is that he doesn't really. He was going on to basically say that he's never said that referees are the issue for matches and things like that. He doesn't do that in England and so on and so forth. But there are plenty of records of him doing that in the past. But I think that's what it stemmed from. But man, that was quite a fiery thing. If Antonio Conte had any, and even as somebody who really enjoys his management style, I think a lot of the affection that the club might have had or fans might have had is kind of over after today. I think he's very much nailed his colors that he is a Spurs manager now and sees Chelsea as such, right, as a rival. And yeah, it was a great for even if you had to been a neutral in that match, it had to been wonderful to watch that going on. But now that Tuchel getting red carded though is a little concerning. That means he should miss the next match. Somebody else have to fill in for him. But at the very end there, I mean, Tuchel basically would not let go of Conte's hand, and definitely wanted to let him know whatever he actually had to say to him. I don't know, but definitely was not backing down and ready to bring a fight today. Which again, that just seems so out of character for Tuchel from what we've seen already. This with him as manager, he seems to be the guy that'll make these snide, more sarcastic remarks later on, but it seems like he never wants to be that directly confrontational. So I mean, it seems like he's up for it now and is definitely starting to build more character as far as a long-term management for this team. I think that he's shown a lot there. And besides that, I think the second half, I mean, it could have gone better, but yeah, shouldn't have, in my opinion, either goals happened given there was fouls right up to the build-up of them getting the ball and winning the goal or the corner that led to them scoring. And yeah, I think that's the most difficult part of it is to accept that again, we have this officiating getting in the way of basically missing clear and obvious errors that I think even neutrals in this match would have said that, yeah,
Yeah,
these are clear and obvious errors being missed.
yeah, agreed. I don't think there is any debate on how bad the officiating was tonight. And it's sad to see that it always happens in these big kind of games where almost every football fan is watching this game, and it's not just Tottenham fans and Chelsea fans watching it, but also Man United fans, Arsenal fans, everyone's got an eye on this game, and for a game like this to have a result of a 2-2 based off of referee's decision, not based off of because Tottenham made a comeback or they changed their system or whatever, and they were doing much better than Chelsea. We dominated through 90 minutes. There was not a single moment where maybe that just that 5 minute when they switched to a back four, maybe then until Jorginho came off and we were back to normal and we were dominating the game again. So really sad to see that, it's the referee that we're talking about at the end of the game rather than the amazing performances that Chelsea's put in. But interesting tactic from Tuchel to start Loftus-Cheek out right wing back. Yes, he's done it before, and he said he's done it in pre-season, and he wants to see what Loftus-Cheek can do. What are your thoughts on his performance in that position? And he moved to the midfield once I think James moved out and Jorginho came off.
Yeah, I actually thought Loftus-Cheek was overall really good today. He had some moments and maybe he could have done better. The one I'm really thinking of is when he kind of had the fancy footwork to dribble through right very much right in front of goal. And I think that and he ended up laying it off to Sterling, who ended up blasting it over the bar, which really that was really difficult. I thought Sterling was just going to go ahead and finish that and
Yeah,
kill the game there. But I think that other than that, what I think he could have done better there was just take the shot when as soon as he made that space with his footwork. I can't see, I didn't get a great view of it, but it just looked like that's maybe what he should have done was attempt a shot there first. But overall, I mean, I think he looked good overall. Especially what I think he offers is just such an offensive presence from wherever he's deployed out wide. And I think that if we're going to put him more centrally in that attacking zone, alongside Mount more often in the future. What I think that he can do is I'm not going to try to get ahead of myself and make a mountain out of a molehill that, Loftus Cheek is going to be in the 11 again and again and again. But I think that he offers a very good role playing option from the bench going forward. And I think that knowing that we have that, we can bring him on. He has this positional flexibility. He can play center mid. He can play center attacking mid. He can play wing back. He can truthfully play out on the wing or as a wide midfielder if we needed him to play there for whatever reason. I just think, and he's even shown he can play center back. So I think these are the kind of performances that show why we should keep Loftus Cheek because he has a great amount of utility with how versatile he is positionally. But he's also shown, especially when he's in these wing back or maybe a little further advanced roles, how effective he can be. And he's also shown that if we're playing like low block sides, he can play that central center back position and basically be a ball playing center back because we're going to have to heavily rotate Thiago Silva this season, given how his age, how many matches we're going to have, and the fact that he'll have a World Cup and that we will have many matches post World Cup. So I'm really encouraged. I'm going to see with Loftus Cheek under Thomas Tuchel. And I mean, really, offensively, was his strength today. I thought was the ability to where he would have the ball and just kind of drive forward, and that seems to be continually one of his better strengths. So I really do think that we have a very good role player, and I'm not going to say that they're similar in style, but we could potentially have somebody like John Obi Mikel that can just come in when needed and play a role that's required and get a good enough performance, which saves us going to the market and buying somebody else that's going to want to have more minutes than we can offer. And then we get into this situation where transfers don't work out. So I think that, all things considered, today is a very good performance for Loftus Cheek. He continually shows that he has tactical flexibility and how his positional versatility impacts how we can change our tactics, not only in defense, but mainly in attack, especially with him driving forward, how we can basically play this, through this back five shape in defense and then shift immediately to a 4-2-2 with him pushing into the central midfield out of the wing back position. So, yeah, I mean, I know I said a lot there with Loftus Cheek, but I mean, he's somebody that really did stick out to me today. And then I really like that he can offer this rotational bench position for us as well, having that connection with the club. I think that it's somebody we should keep around for all of those reasons. He's shown a lot of good performances, and I mean, go back to Madrid last season when he played wingback, he looked incredible. So, I am starting to progressively like more of what I see with Loftus Cheek, despite in the past kind of saying I don't know if we should keep this player because he's just up there, hasn't really kicked on, but now we're starting to see more of it. I mean, what did you kind of make of his performance today?
I think Loftus-Cheek, I have my doubts. I had my doubts in terms. Yes, preseason is a lot different than playing Tottenham in a
Mm-hmm.
in a Premier League game. But seeing how he performed tonight, yeah, you're absolutely spot on in terms of us not having to go and try and find a replacement when we've got someone like Loftus-Cheek who can put in a performance like this. And against, weaker teams, I'm sure he can do a lot better. This is Tottenham and Conte, who is a very ruthless manager. And I think his emotions today came from the fact that he's lost so many times consecutively last season, where he wanted to throw anything and everything at Chelsea just to get this 3 points, just to at least draw the game. Because right at the start, Loftus-Cheek was key in breaking down that Tottenham defense. They were at times five at the back, four in midfield, and with Harry Kane being the lone striker, it was very tough for us to try and find spaces and gaps to go into. And Loftus-Cheek, Reece James, Sterling, these three were combining to try and do something on the right side, on the right side, because on the left, Cucurella had quite a lot of space, which was easy to find for him and make those runs in with Mount coming in to help him out there. But on the right hand side, when we did struggle, there was the combination that I saw quite often, and which was quite promising to see as well, because all in all, it's a long season to play with. You can't rely on Reece James and Sterling every single game. You have to bring in someone like Loftus-Cheek. You're going to have to bring in, if ZX stays, if Pulisic stays, for them to link up and try and get those. Because once Pulisic came on, I thought we kind of slowed down in terms of trying to find spaces. Maybe that was because we were trying to make sure we don't concede another goal. Maybe we were trying to be defensive, but Loftus-Cheek in that position played well. And then moving on to midfield as well, quite impressive. When Jorginho came off, and I can't remember exactly who came on. I think Bro. I can't remember who exactly it was that came on. Azpilicueta came on in defense, and then James moved to right back. Yeah, that was the one. But yeah, his performance overall really well. Gallagher came on and played really well as well. Right at the end when he came on with the interceptions, and he was trying to go after the ball. So promising from him. I would like to see him stay. The talk about Gallagher leaving, yes, he might get less game time at Chelsea, but at least he'll be at a club competing for 5 or 6 trophies, and at a club where Kante and Jorginho cannot play every single game. So you will have your time if you're picked. What are your quick thoughts on Gallagher and him staying back?
Yeah, I think if we're going to keep Gallagher, I think that we just have to accept that he's going to be better played, kind of more of how in the Mount role has been with Thomas Tuchel. I think that's where we're going to see more out of him, because he has an incredible ability to press. He not only can press, but he does it very well, and he's a very efficient presser, despite being a high volume presser. That's kind of what I noticed from him. And even going back to Palace last season, he would have this ability to get the ball higher up the field and create something, or just kind of finish a chance. So I think that he doesn't play the six very well, or that kind of role in which Jorginho and/or Conte, Kovacic. He just doesn't. I don't think that's his role as much in the field. I think he's better a little further up, maybe a more traditional, cam. Despite that not really existing in our team and any other team, there's not really any classical number 10s used anymore. So I think if we're going to eventually switch to like a 4-3-3, he's going to be best be played as more in that 8 position. But what we saw today was, he was lively in what he did get. And I just think I agree with you too. We're going to have so many matches this season, and especially if he does not make the World Cup squad, then we have a very good player that's going to fill in and help, basically manage the match load and how much everyone's going to be worn down post World Cup. We're going to have another very good player who maybe doesn't have that level of minutes on his legs going into the later part of the season. So it could be a huge thing for us. And I think that you're right. Staying here at Chelsea and competing for a role among 5 or 6 trophies, something like that, is going to probably be the better long-term experience for him. Especially because like you said, we have Jorginho and Conte. They can't play forever. Their contracts are on their last year. Yeah, but I mean, I think Connor hasn't shown a lot this season, but he has shown enough that he's going to be useful for us. And I think he's only going to get better as time goes on, in terms of better learning the role, because the system we're playing is much different than what he was playing at Palace.
So his loan at Palace was successful. It was a very successful loan. I almost confused him with Billy Gilmore, but his loan was quite successful at Palace. And yes, it's a lot different of a role that he had at Palace compared to at Chelsea, because of Mount being there and Mount starting every single game. He might be a little bit more deeper than than he's used to. But whatever he showed tonight was promising, and I think we're right in thinking that he's going to have a role in this club, in this team, in this season. If not, maybe not as key this season, but next season, because you got to think these managers are not just planning this window until January. They're planning a few seasons ahead. You know, the reason why Man City or Liverpool are almost untouchable right now in the way they're getting 90 points a single season is because they've spent 4 or 5 years just drafting a squad with a depth where if X is injured, Y can come in and replace, and as if nothing's happened. And right now we don't have that at Chelsea. We don't, if something happens to Sterling, who have we got at wing position to kind of stand there, hold the ball, wait for the striker to make a run, wait for Mount to make a run? No one can do that at Chelsea. So it's one of those where we lack the depth. So if someone like Gallagher is smart enough, would like to say, right, I might not get fully, a start every single game this season, but if I stick around, I will become a regular starter at Chelsea. And if I work hard enough and if I've got the potential to do it, why don't I crack at Chelsea and play at Chelsea FC, my boyhood club. Obviously, that being one of the advantages as well. So I think overall, great performance from Tottenham. Still a long way to go in the season. Yes, we dropped points because of referees, but at least we don't play in November and December. So maybe every point that we lose before that is let's say just a point we would have lost in November and December
The
anyways. Uh,
the bad luck just transfers to something else.
yeah. And then next on, we've got Leeds, Sunday away from home, Ellen Road. Not the best of records as well away from home, against a Leeds side which has generally struggled. I can't think I think they drew this week against. I'm mixing it up with someone else as well, but Leeds did win their opening game from what I remember. And this week they did drew against Southampton, if I'm not wrong. So yeah, they've made some improvements in terms of their squad. Bamford's still there, Rodrigo, Harrison, and with the pace, and not the pace, but the I guess the fitness Leeds have. Like we have to focus on that as well. Their players can run a lot longer than Chelsea and run at high intensity than Chelsea. Even though we saw quite an intense Chelsea performance today, which was positive. What are your quick takes on Leeds and your thoughts on Leeds?
I mean, yeah, Leeds, so they're an interesting, I mean, going back historically, a pretty interesting team since they got back into the Premier League, right? They finished, I think it was 10th overall, or they may finish in the top 10 of the Premier League under the first season they got back with Bielsa. And then it all just went south last year. And then, Marsh takes over somewhat. He's going to play a somewhat similar style. And I think that we're starting, he did enough to keep them up out of being relegated. And now this season, they seem like they're actually, despite losing their best player with Rafinha, I mean, they start this season. I understand it's not the beating the biggest and best of clubs, but starting the season with 4 points, same as Chelsea right now, is pretty good for Leeds, right? It might actually show that they're not going to be in a relegation battle this season as many might have thought. I think what's going to be difficult for us is that they're going to be able to match a lot of our intensity off the ball. And that kind of is something that's always going to be a bit difficult whenever you're a bit more of a possession based side and teams are actively trying to always press and disrupt you on the ball. That's going to present a problem for us. And we've even seen in the past that it's not the best of places for us to go. It's not like we just go over to, since they've just be their third season. And I don't think that I know we've won, but against Leeds, but it's also, they've had their moments against us and taken their points off of us as well. So with them high flying right now, given, they're kind of punching above, I think what many people expected this season. But I think the key man for them right now is Rodrigo Moreno. He's up to 3 goals already in 2 matches. And this is really what they signed him at the time when he was signed initially in their return to the Premier League. He was, I think, their club record signing. And it just didn't pan out as much. But now it looks like Jesse March might have actually have a tactical plan that Marcelo Bielsa didn't have to get Rodrigo Moreno firing, and he is. So it's going to be the danger man. And how our two older center backs deal with him will be interesting, I think, in the run up to the match and how they do it within the match, and maybe what our tactical plan is to get such a hot goal scoring striker to cool down a bit and to not be on the score sheet. I think it's going to be an interesting match and more difficult than people may realize. I don't think it's going to be as defensively as much of a stalemate as Lampard did with Everton last week, where it was just this very boring, dull, let's sit back and just basically not try to concede anything, and then we'll see what we get on the counterattack. I expect Leeds to actually come at us a lot more than what Everton did, and not just be satisfied to sit back for 90 minutes hoping for a draw. I think they're going to be very strategic at how and when they use their chances to basically hit forward and try to go more on the front foot. And then I think it's going to be interesting to see how long they try to apply that pressure. How long are they going to try to go for it and exploit us before they realize, okay, let's sit back a little bit and then try again. But that's kind of the match I'm expecting, is one that's going to come in waves where Chelsea will have control and then they're going to lose control depending upon when Leeds want to go on the front foot and take their chances. But I think the hope would be when they go on the front foot and take that chance, we hit them and can probably hopefully kill the match, unlike we were able to do today against Tottenham.
Sorry, I've been on mute. But I was just saying that because Leeds likes to play quite wide out on the left and right hand side, they might look to push back whoever our right back and or whoever our wing backs might be on the day to try and just eliminate them when it comes to Chelsea attacks because of how high they play on those sides, as well as their action zones or their kind of play zones where they've got quite a lot of their play happening right in the middle, and then they move it out wide and play out wide and try and catch, Reece James maybe or Chilwell or Cucurella out of position and try and get those crosses in. And someone like Bamford, who's quite tall as well, that's going to be their main man to target for them. But we've got the advantage of Koulibaly and the physicality of Koulibaly and Thiago Silva to counter that. So it's going to be an intense game, as Travis said. We're going to be pushed hard on that day. It's not going to be an easy game. It's not going to be goal scoring game for us. I think a 1-0 win with a great defense deadlock, I think would be a great performance. Even if call it boring, it's 3 points, and it's 3 points in a league where every single point matters. So if Chelsea play it slow, take game at a game at a time, we're not going to be far off from top four and maybe even closing the gap as Travis said. So yeah, a lot to look forward to in terms of Leeds. Rodrigo Marino, I think I butchered the name. Rodrigo to look sorry, Rodrigo to look out for in that game against Leeds, as well as Patrick Bamford for me. Travis, your quick score predictions for that game. I know it's quite early for that, but I'll make sure to clip it and put it on our social media pages.
I think we're probably going to get in this one. I'm going to go for a 2-0 win in this match. I think that we'll be able to defensively get it sorted and just have a little too much to overwhelm Leeds. I'll expect a goal either side of halftime, and pretty professional performance. I think that we'll be able to soak up the pressure well, and maybe get in a good enough plan. Now that they don't have Rafinha out wide, we have a good enough plan to neutralize Marino or Rodrigo.
Yeah, right before we end it, just a quick talk on the transfers. Fofana, that's been going on for a while now. We haven't discussed a lot of that on this channel, but that performance against Arsenal, I was watching it the other day when I watched Arsenal thrash Leicester, and the way they were playing kind of scares me. But at the same time, Fofana, I think that performance doesn't define who he is as a defender, does it? Because obviously he's got so much going on right now with Chelsea FC and the transfer news that it's kind of hard to just focus on the game and the way Leicester played it overall. Not just his fault for the goals that Arsenal scored and the way Arsenal played that day, did it?
Yeah, so I think with Fofana, I mean, I kind of said before the season, I think this will be the end of Brendan Rodgers at Leicester City, and it's really starting to look that way. They're financially in a very dire state, not really bringing anybody in this offseason. They're only going to be losing assets. And I just think that that's not, there's a lot of turmoil surrounding them in more than just Fofana and his personal situation. So I think that that's kind of the key context here, is that things behind the scenes there are not as good as they should be. And I do think they're going to be on a pretty good sized collapse here very shortly, if they can't get things figured out, not only in results, but also, in the financial side of things, by next season. So, I mean, despite all of that, I think that they just don't, you can't really blame him for everything going on there. And that's kind of what I'm getting at with those statements. And, he is a young guy. His head is obviously turned. And, at the end of the match, it really seemed like he was kind of giving his goodbye to the Leicester City fans. But yeah, it could end up being a farewell match for Fofana here. It kind of looked that way, and we've seen the basically the quotes are that we're stepping our bid up, and maybe the bid is going to be coming in this upcoming week. I think there's a lot to be excited about with the move for him. And again, I don't think that what's going on in the performance that we just saw this weekend is really all that representative of Fofana as a player. We saw him in the FA Cup final do incredibly well against us back in 2021. So I just think that, and the reason I say all that about Brendan Rodgers and maybe being his last year is there's just a lot going on at Leicester that I think is going to be bleeding through into the pitch and the results this season. And I think, unfortunately, Fofana is already getting drawn into that. So, we'll see how it goes. Hopefully we get him. And we've been chasing him now for quite some time. And it does seem the bully is committed to Tuchel getting the players that he wants. So let's hopefully get this one through and over the line.
I think with the Fofana situation, it's clear that Tuchel wants him as a player and Chelsea need him as a player. Because with the fitness that Thiago Silva and Azpilicueta has got, that we can't have them play every week. Koulibaly as well was struggling against Everton. He did play the 90 against Tottenham Hotspur, so which is promising to see. But at the same time, we need these backups. We need the young players to come in. Fofana is going to be that young player that is going to come in and change it for Chelsea and hopefully be the defender for the next few years at Chelsea FC, along with maybe Caldwell to play with in that defensive position, as well as a young Reece James and Cucurella and with Chilwell. So yeah, quite optimistic on Fofana and that deal happening. Travis, thank you very much for coming on. Thank you for coming on the podcast and giving us your time. For those of you listening, please make sure to subscribe to the podcast, leave a like rating below. Let us know what your thoughts were on the Spurs game, as well as what you think about the Leeds game and the Fofana situation. Follow all of our social media pages for the latest news on the transfers, as well as the latest videos of the podcast and the clips of the podcast. And we'll see you next time. Until then, stay safe.